Hello and welcome to LFC Focus. It is pre-match build-up showtime as Liverpool gear up for a Monday night fixture at Molineux against Wolves at 8 o'clock. And before we get into that game, I just want to apologise for there not being any content around the RB Leipzig game in midweek. Rather, unfortunately, we had a street-wide power cut that was irritatingly timed around one of the few games that has actually been enjoyable for Liverpool supporters. You know, it would have been fine if the power had conked out when we were getting tonked by Everton and Fulham at Anfield, but no, it chose a big European night when Liverpool suddenly got their act together, played some really nice stuff and got through to the quarterfinals. So, you know, quick word on that game. It was good, really enjoyable, great to see Fabinho back in midfield, and we will obviously talk about that a little bit more later on in the video. But again, sorry that there wasn't any content around that game. It was very annoying that the one time I could have actually been having fun in front of camera and talking about Liverpool doing well, I didn't get the chance. But, you know, we move on. It's Premier League fixture time now. We've got that game against Wolves, and Liverpool are now in a really weird position when it comes to the league, and it almost does hark back to Jurgen Klopp's first season in charge. I'm talking about the one where he arrives in October, and we have a very, very good Europa League campaign. We also go far in the League Cup as well, and that's obviously fantastic. But the flip side of that is that Liverpool kind of sacked off the league, if we're being honest, and we're now in a position where obviously we are so far adrift of not just the top of the table but the top four as well now, whereas performances in Europe have been very promising, and we are of course into the last eight. We are just a few games away from the final in Istanbul. It's almost a sort of a crossroads moment for Liverpool now, where we kind of think, do we just completely bin off the league? Is it such a write-off that there's no point even trying and putting all of our eggs in the Champions League basket? And there's a few things that you kind of need to take into account before you give an answer to that question. I think, first of all, it's not quite the same scenario as the Europa League campaign back in Klopp's first season. First of all, you've got fewer matches in Europe. The Champions League has one less knockout stage, so we don't have to worry about fixture congestion in the same way, although of course this season has been very, very different to any other season before in terms of how the fixtures have been crammed in. You've also got the fact that Liverpool's squad is very different to the one from that first Klopp season. That squad was a huge mix of players he really liked. You know, it was very clear what his first choice, first 11 was, and players that were kind of left over from the Brendan Rodgers era that you felt very much were kind of just filling in the gaps, and those were the players that played in the league, and the players that Klopp really liked were the ones that played in Europe. You've now got a much more level playing field where there are pretty much no players in the squad that Jurgen Klopp straight up doesn't fancy. He has chosen all of these players for a reason. He's kept the other ones on from the previous era for a reason. So it's not like you can pick out an 11 that would play in Europe that is really good, and then an 11 that you just chuck out in the Premier League and would be absolute garbage. The only way you could really do that, not to call them garbage, but is to put out the under 23s. I don't think Liverpool are going to do that because, again, it comes back to the fixture congestion thing. It's not as big of a problem. You also haven't got that constant Thursday to Sunday turnaround that I think was one of the main issues. You know, the short space of time between the fixtures became a real problem. So I don't think that Liverpool are going to completely bin the league off, but I think it's nice that the pressure's off now. We've kind of given up on top four pretty much. I'm sure the players won't have that mentality, but as fans, we're not going into games on the edge of our seats thinking, God, we have to win, we have to get 3 points. For the first time in a few years, Liverpool fans are going into league games quite relaxed, not looking at this as an absolute must win, and instead looking towards these games more as ways to preserve rhythm. You know, of course, after this match, we have 3 whole weeks before the next game against Arsenal, and of course, straight after that, you're flying into the Champions League quarterfinals. That is the real business end of the season. But as a result, I'm not looking at this Wolves game and thinking, oh, just play the kids, play the reserves, rest everyone. I'm thinking, well, actually, it might be quite good to get as many players that you're expecting to play in those Champions League games on the pitch as you possibly can to try and get them to keep their rhythm, because of course that 3-week break that's coming up is because of internationals and because of a slight quirk in the way the Premier League fixtures are set up. But with all the rules around travel and quarantining hotels and stuff like that at the moment, it's actually quite unlikely that Most of Liverpool's players will go away on international duty. You'd expect the England internationals to do so, although there aren't really many of them left. They're all injured at the moment. Players like Diogo Jota, who would be obviously probably going away to the Portuguese training camp, will probably end up staying because we don't want them to have to do that quarantine period when they return. So actually this game, and looking ahead to the rest of the season as well, all the other Premier League games could end up being very, very important in terms of keeping players fit and firing and ready for when those European matches come around. So team news going into this game. Jurgen Klopp gave his press conference yesterday, which was a little bit weird, it coming around on a Saturday rather than the usual Friday afternoon briefing. He said that Roberto Firmino will be assessed closer to this game. He missed out on training yesterday on Saturday, so it's not looking likely, certainly, that he would start in this game, although with it only being a two-game layoff that he had, and it being kind of a small knock that's kept him out, I wouldn't be surprised if he was kept in the squad in some way. I just don't think, especially with the way that the rest of the front three performed against Leipzig, I think it's unlikely that Firmino would be thrown straight into the starting 11 for this game. Apart from that, there was no real injury updates. We got a little bit about the centre halves, Joe Gomez, Virgil van Dijk and Joel Matip. Klopp basically saying don't expect to see any of them before the end of the season, and kind of trying to rule them out for the Euros as well, which, if I'm being honest, seems like the sensible thing. If you had the option of, chuck Van Dijk and Gomez in for the last couple of games of the season, and then they have to go away for the European Championships over summer, or don't play them at all, they don't play at the Euros, and then you get to slowly build them back up to match sharpness in pre-season, I'd probably take the latter one, to be perfectly honest. I mean, let me know down in the comments below what you think. If Van Dijk is available for the last month of the season, would you want to chuck him in, or would you rather play it safe and maybe keep him away from the European Championships as well? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Moving on to exactly how I think Liverpool are going to line up for this game, I think we're probably going to go strong. I don't think we will see a lot of rotation, especially given the 5-day gap between the Leipzig game and this one, and then the aforementioned 3-week break afterwards. There's not a massive need to rotate players. Of course, if someone gets injured, a la Diogo Jota at Midtjylland in this game, that would be hugely frustrating, but you could say that about any match. So I think it's going to be Alisson Becker in goal. In front of him, I think we're going to go for the new stable centre-half pairing of Nat Phillips and Ozan Kabak. I think for as long as we possibly can, we keep those two, let them forge a partnership at the heart of the defence. Either side of them, they should have Trent Alexander-Arnold and Andrew Robertson to guide them through. In front of them, most importantly, the lighthouse, Fabinho, I think will keep his place as the number 6. Jurgen Klopp obviously was glowing in his praise after the Leipzig game, as was everybody, because it was a fantastic performance from Fabinho. It also did so much for everyone else on the pitch. I think for Nat Phillips and Kabak behind him, they benefit more from Fabinho being in front of them than being alongside one of them. The way he screens the defence is absolutely fantastic. So I think for that reason alone, he should be going back into midfield rather than into a centre-half partnership. And then the players in front of him as well, including Thiago, who I think will also start this game, was unleashed in a way. We finally got to see the Thiago that we know Liverpool bought, and we got to see tiny flashes of at the start of the season before it all obviously went haywire with the defensive injuries and the injury to himself as well. But what we saw against Leipzig, if we can keep Fabinho in the centre midfield and keep Thiago in the side, I think that is the midfielder that we will see for the rest of the season, and that will be a huge asset for Liverpool in these last couple of months. So I think Thiago keeps his place. I think Wijnaldum keeps his place as well. You go with a relatively stable midfield, especially after the great performance from all three of them against Leipzig, and then, of course, Curtis Jones and Naby Keita and Oxlade-Chamberlain are all very useful options from the bench if you want to heat things up a little bit more going forward. And then I think the front three will be again the same as the one against RB Leipzig, so it's completely the same starting 11. I think Jota will keep his place, Salah and Mane will be there as well, and that is a front three that I think has more than enough firepower to get past Wolves. So taking a quick look at Wolves then, they've obviously struggled a lot this season, especially since the injury to Raul Jimenez. I think it's the effect of that has run through the entire team. It's kind of dismantled the way that they play, because of course they were a good defensive unit but a fantastic attacking team as well. They had such a great kind of way of playing with the ball, a great way of moving it forward that was slick, that was clever, that was very difficult to deal with. And Jimenez was so key to that. He was the focal point of it, had that kind of presence up top, and also the finisher as well. Wolves have struggled both with the way they play and the way they put the ball in the back of the net as well. The other players just haven't quite been able to step up to the level that Raul Jimenez was providing as the number 9 for Wolves. So that's made it a very, very difficult season for them. But they've kind of adapted a little bit. I think that the fact that they can't rely on Jimenez right up at the top of the pitch has led to the defence kind of having to do a bit more work. I think they haven't got an out ball. They haven't got someone they can lump it forward to with Jimenez. I'm not saying that they are a long ball team, but having a big, strong striker who can hold the ball up does buy your defence a lot of time, especially when you're under pressure. Whereas now we've seen a lot more backs to the wall defending from them. They've done it quite well. They've been part of many, many low-scoring affairs, a lot of 0-0 draws and 1-0 wins and 1-1 draws and stuff like that. So I don't think this is going to be a high-scoring affair. I don't think we're going to see as many chances as we did in the Liverpool-Leipzig game. So the onus is on Liverpool here to finish the chances they get. They cannot be as wasteful as they were in Budapest, especially not the way they were in the first half, where they were getting a clear-cut chance every 5 minutes and shanking it wide every single time. I don't think Liverpool are going to get as many opportunities in this game, but I think the fact that they had that game against Leipzig to kind of set their radars and get all their mistakes out is kind of the adage that goes with it. I think now is the game where hopefully we see them start to really fire, especially Diogo Jota, who of course has made his comeback from injury now. Jurgen spoke about how we've maybe played him a little bit more than we would have liked over the course of the games against Chelsea and Leipzig, but that 5-day rest I think will be more than enough for him now, and hopefully he's had a bit of time to calibrate his radar again, work out where the goal is, and hopefully we start to see him start smashing the ball into the back of the net as he was doing so brilliantly at the start of the season. So I think it will be a win for Liverpool. I think we'll get a nice send-off before that big 3-week break. And listen, who knows? As I said at the top of the video, we're miles away from the top 4. But with the way that other teams are dropping points and with the crazy season that we are living through at the moment, you just never know. So that is all for today's video. Thank you guys very much for watching. If you did enjoy the video, as always, you know what to do. Hit the like button down there. Hit that subscribe button there if you're new around here. Check out some of the other videos that have been out on the channel over the past few days. Don't forget to follow at LFC Focus TV on Twitter as well. And I'll be back tomorrow with the post-match content after the Wolves game. Until then, bye for now.